I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Mark Swift, who served as a producer of The Croods: A New Age, which is currently in the hunt for an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature. The first question I want to ask is, how did you become involved with this project? Because you weren't involved with the original Croods film back in 2013, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And it's not unusual in animation for different teams to take over sequels. I think Croods 2 had a few steps to get where it ended up. Along the way, DreamWorks got sold. We had new owners come in. Universal came in, took over, and I think they took a look at different projects and held at different times. And by the time they were ready to commit to a version of Croods 2, the original team had moved on. They were working at different studios, and so they looked around and asked me and Joel Crawford, who's the director, to step in and take over.
So, there's so much about this movie that is just delightful, and there's so much to take in terms of the visuals and the music and just the story. What aspect of the film did you find most appealing?
I think, and it's the same probably for most stories for me, it's what's going on with our characters. What is happening to our characters, and they're a fascinating, the first family, we like to think of them. And so what is their journey from, where we left them at the end of Croods 1, which is they're out searching for a better place, a place they like to call tomorrow, for them to find this tomorrow, only to find it inhabited by more advanced humans. And that kind of culture clash and that thing of people coming across new ideas and just more people, I think is really the heart of the story, and really just how these two families who are very, very different form one big family. I think that in some ways was the magic of the film.
Now, it's sort of to contrast that, I mean, what aspect of the, sometimes when you're trying to get a film nailed down, there are certain parts where there's just something where it's just not getting nailed down correctly. And I'm wondering, what was what aspect of the film, whether it was like the look or the tone of something, was the toughest to nail down for the film?
Yeah, the look, I think, obviously being a sequel, you inherit a lot, and you inherit a certain rules. And yes, we move and we bend and change them. I think the challenge is always kind of, where do you take these characters and where do you take the story? And I think for us, it was, trying to find a place like an antagonist for our family. We didn't want the Bettermans to be your traditional bad villains. We wanted them to be a little misguided, a little snobby, but then trying to find what's the thing that will drive the story. I think that was probably the bigger challenge for us. And that's like, the section, the first half of the movie came together fairly quickly. It was the second half of the movie. Where do we go with this family? What is the challenge they're up against? How do they learn to work together? That probably was the part that took the most time for us, I think.
And so you mentioned that you had to get new people onto the film,
yeah,
because most of the original people had moved on to other studios. How did you find and settle on Joel Crawford as the director?
Yeah, look, me and Joel came on together, and Joel has been a head of story at DreamWorks for a number of years, and so everyone's aware of his ability. And then he had directed a TV special from the Trolls team. I think what we look for as a director here in animation, obviously it's someone that knows how to get the best out of, there are hundreds of people who work on the film, whether they're animators, they're development artists, they're effects artists. You want someone who can get the best out of them, but primarily you want a storyteller. You want somebody who can craft a story, craft characters, be able to make that all believable, and to be able to bring everyone along. And Joel's just a great storyteller at his heart. And I think that for us is the most important thing when we look for directors, I think, is someone that can uh, figure out a story, figure out all the holes, bring everyone along. Yeah.
I think one of the other just remarkable things about the movie is this incredible voice cast that you have.
Yeah.
Everyone from Emma Stone, Ryan Reynolds, and Nicolas Cage, but also to people like Leslie Mann, Peter Dinklage, and Clark Duke, who is such a great comedic actor. What was it? What was assembling this cast like, and what was it like having them as workers on this film?
Yeah, look, again, as a sequel, you inherit a lot, and we inherited an A-level cast. Now, I think when Croods 1 came out, Emma Stone and Ryan Reynolds certainly weren't the names that they are today. Croods 1 came out in 2012 or 2013, so it was before Deadpool and some other big hits that those guys have had. We were incredibly lucky to be blessed with that original cast. I don't think we could afford them if we were making a live-action movie. That would be one stellar cast. And Nick and Emma and Ryan, and they're just they're amazing actors, but they're amazing vocal actors, and that's not always the case. And you feel it in their performances. How earnest they are. Emma Stone is an amazing technical actress. She can just give you take after take after take. Ryan Reynolds is super funny and just brings a lot of his own personality and will work with us and ad-lib stuff, and Nicolas Cage is exactly what you want him to be. He is a ball of energy, and you just put him in the studio and you kind of step back and just wait for the magic to happen. So we're incredibly blessed with all the talent on the film, and then we had the opportunity to add to it. And so for us, it's like, what would be a very contrasting family to the Croods? And Peter Dinklage, has a voice that's, I'm British, and I kind of nearly think of him as British. He's got that Shakespearean qualities to him, which we felt was a great foil to Grug. Leslie Mann, in some ways, steals the film. She comes in with such a comedic tour de force of a performance. At every scene she's in, she kind of just holds her own. And then, in some ways, my favorite character, just because she's so warm, is Kelly Marie Tran. And she's really, in some ways, the heart of the story, the person who's got the most pure heart about welcoming in the Croods, about suddenly finding what a friend means, and really inspiring, in some ways, everybody to get together. We couldn't have been luckier with, the team that we assemble. And it's, as you know, the voice casting is an element of it. And when you marry that voice casting, and I'm just going to big up the animator's performance here, because that character exists because it's a voice and it's a performer, and the voice is a performer, but the animators are also a performer, and just how much life and character and fun and warmth they give those voices to really create that living personality you see is it's an amazing marriage, animation. It's such a fun element of what we do here that hundreds of people contribute to an actor's performance. When you see someone in a live action movie, yes, they obviously working with the director and the writer and crafting that performance. But here we have an actor working on top of storyboards and top of writing, and then all the animators come in to complete that performance. It's one of the beautiful things we do here.
One other thing about the voice actors in this movie is that this ended up being one of the last films that Cloris Leachman ever worked on. We just lost her earlier this month. What was it like having her as one of the voice actors for this film?
She is a personality, and anyone who's worked with her will know she's a personality. And I think she was definitely getting older and a little frailer. We sensed it, when we were recording with her. But once she would warm up in the room and get that energy, she was a firecracker and so fun to be. She is surprising and can for an older lady, surprise you with some of her colorful language and her tone. And she was just a blast. Honestly, it was really special for us to really think this was her last performance. This is the last thing Cloris Leachman, who had an amazing career, will ever put up on a screen. And we were a part of it, is just something I think we'll all cherish because she had an amazing part in this film. I think it's a better role than she had in the first film, like with, for anyone who sees the Thunder Sisters and that whole storyline. And she had to get some great places. So we're very blessed to feel that, we got her one last time. It's very sad, but I'm glad that we had that chance to work with her.
So you've been produced a lot of animated films. You've worked specifically in animation, and I'm curious as to how do you get involved with being a producer specifically for animation?
Yeah, look, and there's different types of producers in animation, but on Croods, I think what a true producer does is ensure the most important thing is we're telling a great story. That's the most important thing any movie can do. Any producer's responsibility is to try and make sure that story is as entertaining, as thoughtful as it possibly can be. So you spend a lot of time working with writers, working with directors, working with story, working with editorial, working with the layout team to really hone in on that storytelling. But then you also, you have to make sure that everyone's moving in the same direction. As I said, there are hundreds of people working on an animated movie, and everyone's got their own opinion on what's the right direction. We work with our executive team here at DreamWorks Animation. We want to make sure we're getting the best out of them we can. We work with the executives at Universal. So you're also communicating a lot and trying to make sure everyone's moving with the story. We're all moving together. There's no one left behind. And then honestly, it's to make sure that story can be achieved with the budget and the time frame that you have. And what are the compromises you need to make there? What is the strategy about rolling that out? Because we all have to move as one. Everyone, the 300-400 people on the team have to really move with one voice. And I think the producer has to make sure it is one voice. And I think so that's a lot of what we do here is really corralling everyone, communicating, making sure that we're getting the best information from everyone. You asked about Joel Crawford earlier on. One of the wonderful things he does, he's an amazing collaborator. I'll give you an example. When we're in story meetings and trying to figure out the way, there's a bunch of people in the room. There are writers and there are heads of story, but there are people taking notes. There's PAs, there's people, and he will take an idea from anywhere. Joel will pitch an idea, and the PA puts his hand up in the room and says, would you consider this? And it's a better idea than Joel's. Joel go, that's the idea. That's better. So you're constantly, trying to encourage that type of vibe on the crew so that the best ideas float to the top.
And this may seem a little contrived to ask, but it was so much fun getting to be with these two families. Is there a chance that we might get another feature with these characters?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not naive enough to say, look, it all comes down to demand. It comes down to, do people really want that? There's obviously a financial element in this, but I think, and we've talked a lot about it. Are there further stories to tell about this family in this world? And I think the thing that's great about the Croods and the world that we generate, it's the first of so many things. It's the first time two families are getting together. It's the first time we're seeing an elevator in a treehouse, So I do think with the world that we have, with the characters that we have, there is more to learn about how maybe that world might expand for them, And so I would like to think that we're ready for more Crude stories.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this upcoming awards season. And to all of our viewers, please like this video, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you, Charlie.